This is the Extreme Stewardship Podcast, where we explore anything and everything that gets us better at making things good and good at making things better. I'm in a series of episodes right now about the various ways that we make things better. And I'm suggesting that we make things better, we improve creation, when we make things more orderly, productive, beautiful, virtuous, and fun. The last two episodes have been about order. One episode on what order is and how we go about making it happen, and one episode about the dark side of order, about what happens when order gets disordered. This episode is the first of two on the second way we improve creation, and that is by making it more productive. Productivity means bringing things into existence that weren't there before. Could be physical products, could be ideas, could be methods, procedures, systems, networks, relationships, you name it. This covers a lot of territory. Now let's go back to the beginning. In the beginning, God. There's nothing but God, no one but God. And then there is something else. And the reason there is something else is that God loves to produce new things. He loves to bring into existence things that weren't already there. Let there be plants, waters, trees, animals, seasons, birds. And there was. You name it, God produced it. Now we do this too. We don't create out of nothing precisely, and that's an important distinction. Everything we produce originated in something that predates us. There are no ideas that have no backstory. There are no products that are not products of some pre-existing material. Trace the material chain back far enough, and everything there is comes from God. But still, first there was not, and then at God's command, there was. And in a similar but not quite identical sense, it's fair to say that there was not, and then at our command, there was. There wasn't a painting on that canvas, and then you picked up a brush, and there was. There wasn't a thought in your head, and then I said something, and then there was. We bring new things into existence all the time. A child assembles a Lego set. There wasn't a Lamborghini Gallardo in your living room, and now there is. An author writes a book. There wasn't a place called Narnia, and now there is. Look what I made, shouts the preschooler triumphantly. And that triumph is part of the goodness of productivity, even before we critique the product. We don't care that the popsicle stick airplane can't fly because we see rightly that what matters first is that a child has embraced their God-given vocation to make new things. Quality can come later. What matters first is that a human is rejoicing over the works of their hands because they are made in the image of the one who rejoices over the works of his hands. Productivity is inherently good. We affirm this when we congratulate the small child for producing something, anything. It doesn't matter if the product has any definable virtue of its own. That comes later. But that must come later. Over time, we introduce quality control. We add to the equation a clear sense of what counts or doesn't count as a good product. Now, good in the terms laid out by Genesis 1 and 2 means can do and then does the thing it was designed to do. The plants are good because they produce fruit from their seeds. The planets are good because they move in their heavenly orbits and bring light on the earth. The water is good because it maintains life and flourishing for the creatures God placed in it. These creatures are able to do and then actually do the job God gave them. That's what it means for a product to be good. So when we ask about the goodness of our productivity, we have two things going on. First, we have the inherent goodness of the fact that a human made in God's image has imaged God by bringing something new into existence. And then, second, we ask what that new something is supposed to do, because every product is supposed to do something. Now, there are a million variables here. Some products are for sale, some are not. Some products are designed for a very particular consumer, and some are not. Some products are only good if they last a long time, like a house. Some products are designed to be consumed immediately, like a meal. Some products are designed to increase order, some to increase beauty, some to increase fun. Now, this could get really complicated, so I'm going to resist the temptation to run down every rabbit hole and limit myself to naming a few ways that goodness is the same across all products, and then a few ways that goodness varies across different products. So let's start with the constants. These are ways that a product being good, that is, doing what it was designed to do, is the same across all products in all contexts at all times. Constant number 1. The goodness of all products is constrained by God's definition of goodness. If a product doesn't make creation more orderly, productive, beautiful, virtuous, or fun, it's not good. Constant number 2. The goodness of all products is a function of its intended consequences. If I put a product into the world that I designed to rot people's brains, that's not good. If I put a product into the world that's designed to save lives, that's good. Constant number 3. The goodness of all products is a function of its unintended consequences. I didn't mean for my product to be addictive, but it is. I didn't intend for my product to hurt people, but it did. Oh, this is tough. It's tough because some unintended consequences are also justifiably unforeseen consequences, and some aren't. We produce words that hurt people and then say, I didn't mean to hurt them. And that matters to some degree, but common sense differentiates between words we all knew were going to hurt someone if we thought about it for 2 seconds, and words that hurt someone for reasons we couldn't have known, and words that another person chose to receive hurtfully, even when there was no legitimate reason for doing so. Now, I'm not even making a moral judgment here. This isn't necessarily about products like words being sinful. It's about them being good. And good implies cohesion between what the producer intends the product to do and what they actually do. Every product has unintended consequences because we are finite creatures who cannot possibly know or control every ripple effect we have on the world, and we are limited by time and space, and therefore those ripple effects are by definition at a distance from their point of origin. So goodness is in part a function of even the unintended consequences, and that means there's always room for improvement. Remember, this is about goodness, not perfection. Moving on. Constant number 4. The goodness of all products is in part a function of how they reflect upon their producers. What I produce says something about me. It might say something about what I value, about what I believe, about where I am on the production learning curve, about my abilities, about my work ethic, about my education, about my personal health. All of these are potentially on the table. And so the question becomes, what does a product say about its producer? And is that something good? Constant number 5. The goodness of all products is a function of successful negotiation between producer and consumer. Now, this one is going to overlap just a bit with the previous points about intended and unintended consequences. But what I mean is that when I put a product into the world, there's a conversation of sorts between me and whoever or whatever that product is going to affect. And that conversation determines the goodness of the product. I'll use my car as an example. There are all kinds of cars that do all kinds of things beyond just moving from point A to point B. Some cars carry more people than others. Some cars are more comfortable than others. Some cars get better fuel efficiency than others. Some cars are more reliable than others. Some cars have towing capacity and some don't. Some have Bluetooth and some don't. And so what's required in order for the car to accomplish its purpose in the world is an agreement about those variables between whoever made the car and whoever drives the car. Now, I drive a 1992 Honda Accord. It has no towing capacity. It is not terribly comfortable. It has no automatic anything other than windows, and I don't care. I, the consumer, the user of the product, did not ask Honda to put any of those things into that car. That car has nearly 400,000 miles on it. It can get up to 35 miles per gallon on a good road. It almost never has any problems, and when it does, it's cheap to fix. That's what I asked the producer for. A car that goes from A to B with minimal hassle, minimal expense, and serious durability. And forget the rest of the bells and whistles. For me, that's a good car because the producer produced a product that was exactly what I, the consumer, was looking for. And when we go from the general idea of a product to a specific instance of a product, we have to include in our formulation of what makes the product good the expectations of the consumer along with the intent of the producer. Now, let me run back through those 5 things just to make sure we get them. The goodness of all products is a function of at least these 5 things: their adherence to God's definition of goodness, their intended consequences, their unintended consequences, their reflections on their producers, and their successful negotiation between the intent of the producer and the expectations of the consumer. These 5 things all products have in common. On the other hand, the goodness of a product also varies in many ways. Like I said about my car, that's a good car for me. The need to match the intent of the producer and the expectation of the consumer is ubiquitous, but that intent and those expectations are going to vary all over the place. So with that in mind, here are 5 ways that the goodness of products varies, meaning whether a product is good and how it is good depends on at least these 5 things. And as these 5 things vary, so do the standards of goodness. So variable number 1, the goodness of a product varies with respect to context. If there are no paved roads for miles around my home, I need a big truck. If I live downtown, I need a little car. If I'm speaking to a bunch of academics, certain words and phrases and modes of communication are good. If I'm speaking to my kids, that same communication style, not so good. This applies to clothes that are good in some climates and not others, some body types and not others, some complexions and not others. What makes an architectural style good depends on the context. What makes a piece of furniture good depends on the context. What makes a tool good depends on the context. Variable number 2, the goodness of a product varies with respect to scale. Remember, goodness is a function of purpose. Does the product do what it is designed to do? And it matters tremendously at what scale a product is being produced. My family has 4 raised garden beds, a blueberry bush, a cherry tree, a few raspberry plants, and a grapevine. And since the goodness of production pertains to its intended purpose, Annie and I ask ourselves the question, what are we trying to accomplish by facilitating the production of these plants? And the answer has a lot more to do with family than it does with food. I like eating the blueberries off the bush, but it's one bush. I'm hardly getting my year's supply of antioxidants. We grow enough tomatoes to eat fresh for a couple of months and then make sauce for most of the winter. And like everyone else in my area, we tend to grow enough zucchini to feed the world. But aside from that, the primary goal is not consumption of the product. The primary goal is making sure our kids know where food comes from, inviting them into creative care for the space God has given us, wowing them with the beauty of God's creation from seed to plate, teaching them about seed time and harvest and all the good work in between. If Annie and I grew the best blueberries in Spokane, but our kids played no part in that process, we would say that our productivity was not good. Now, take our tiny little agricultural endeavor and multiply it 10,000-fold. Now we're talking about a cornfield the size of Rhode Island. Does it produce a lot of corn? Yes, so that's good. But at this scale, I have some different questions. At 10,000 acres, I can get 1 million+ bushels of corn. How much of that is contributing to an obesity epidemic through corn syrup and other manufactured products? That's a question most of us don't have to ask because we don't produce at that scale. Here's another example. We took a tree down in our front yard a few years ago. Minimal environmental impact. We lost some shade in the late morning hours. We shortened our fall leaf removal project. We eliminated the possibility of a dead branch falling on someone. And as far as a product, we got some firewood and a couple of fun little home woodshop projects out of it. Now, Sierra Pacific Industries owns 2.4 million acres of timberland across the western United States. They produce 2 billion board feet of lumber every year. What does it mean for their timber harvest practices to be good? The answer to that question is one heck of a lot more complicated than the answer to the question, was it good when I took that dead birch tree out of my yard? And they have to think about fire mitigation, replanting, worker safety, animal and plant species impact. They're in the western United States, so they have to think about all of the political posturing that goes on about these sorts of things. And we haven't even gotten to what they're going to do with the actual product of the work. The point is, once again, what makes a product good is variable depending on the scale at which it is produced. And point number 3, the goodness of a product varies with respect to volume. Now, by volume, this is different from scale. I just mean that just because one product is good doesn't mean 2 is better, but it might be. In a growth-oriented economy, this is a big deal because the mantra of the business community is that if you're not growing, you're dying. The only way to stay in business is to do more. Now, sometimes that means finding new customers, and that's one kind of volume. Sometimes it means convincing old customers to buy more. That's another kind of volume. But I listen to a fair bit of business and marketing content, and I have yet to hear anyone in that space recommend that I produce less. In the next episode, I'm going to say more about the dark side of productivity, about disordered productivity. So I won't go there just yet. But this isn't terribly complicated. Every product that can be good has a saturation point. And past that point, the goodness starts to fade. And different products have different saturation points. You could argue that I've already crossed that threshold with the number of books that I own. Maybe. On the other hand, I have exactly the number of Apple products that are good for me. I have an Apple laptop and an Apple phone. Good. Done. More would not be better. 2 devices, 2,000 books. Goodness with respect to volume varies depending on the product. On to number 4. The goodness of a product varies with respect to durability. As a general principle, products that endure are better than products that don't. Producing stuff that doesn't have to be constantly fixed, discarded and replaced, or upgraded, that's good. We gripe a lot about durability these days, particularly with respect to manufacturing. Don't make things like they used to is a common refrain, and there's a lot of truth to it. Show me a kitchen implement produced in the 21st century, and I'll show you something destined for a landfill before you finish this episode. On the other hand, you'll be cooking out of your great-grandmother's cast iron pan long after you've forgotten this podcast ever existed. Now, quick aside here, I can think of 3 reasons why durability matters from a biblical perspective. First, God invites us to think multi-generationally, to think in terms of products that outlast their producers. Second, the more disposable our possessions are, the less we value them. We don't take care of things that we assume will break shortly and go to the landfill. And third, things fall apart precisely because we live in a world infected by sin. Decay and disrepair are effects of the fall, and we are invited in our productivity to push back against those effects. Now, having said that, we have to keep in mind that things do fall apart despite our best efforts. That Griswold cast iron pan will last for centuries, unless a forest fire comes through, in which case it will be exactly as durable as that $1 thrift store nonstick pan you bought for your college dorm room. The great Cathedral of Notre Dame lasted almost 1,000 years. That's good work. Until in 2019, either an electrical short circuit or a carelessly discarded cigarette destroyed overnight what had endured for centuries. We do good work when we produce things that will last, but we admit there are no guarantees in this life. So durability is good, but how much durability is required for the stamp of approval depends on the product. So let's say back in 1992, since I'm using the age of my car as a reference point, let's say in 1992, I bought 4 products: a house, a baseball glove, a car, and a computer. A computer from 1992 just might still be able to power up, and we'd say that's impressive, but the odds of that computer being able to do the things we need computers to do, pretty slim. It's durable in a structural sense, not in a functional one. I've already bragged on my 1992 car, a 34-year-old baseball glove. That's not crazy. Good baseball gloves are designed to take a beating. If you don't lose them and don't leave them out in the snow, they'll last a long time. So that's good work. And a house? I mean, we'd be pretty disappointed if we bought a house in 1992 and it just fell down 34 years later. So 4 products, 4 different standards of durability. Durability is a God-given value for the things we produce, but standards of durability do vary depending on the product. All right. Last point, point number 5, the goodness of a product varies with respect to its accessibility. So here is a true and embarrassing confession. I wrote thank you notes to some of my colleagues a while ago. Those notes are still on my desk. They have dates on them. May 6th. I produced something that was good. Words of appreciation, recognition, all that. But the people who were supposed to benefit from those words never benefited from them, which means those words didn't fulfill their purpose, which means they're not good. Now, there is a tension between durability and accessibility, especially as it pertains to cost, because cost is a barrier to accessibility. If the market values durability, durable items will cost more. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. A more durable item probably cost more to produce, and so it's entirely appropriate that it would cost more to purchase. But those of us with less money will not buy the more durable items. And if the item in question is a worthwhile item, particularly if that item is a basic necessity, it is good for producers to produce a less durable item that costs less and is thereby accessible to those of us with less money. Here's an example. I used to work for a high-end custom cabinet maker. We're talking 5-figure laundry room cupboards, African rosewood countertops, wall-size garage storage units square to the 32nd of an inch. I don't own any of those cabinets. I will never own cabinets of that quality. And I cringe every time I look at my cabinets because I know how much better cabinets can be. But my cabinets are good because they do the job of holding up my stuff, which is what cabinets are for, and because I can afford them. Once more, 5 things that vary with respect to the goodness of a product: context, scale, volume, durability, and accessibility. And if I want to identify the goodness of what I produce, I need to take these 5 things into account because they help me identify where the bar really is for any given product. Well, let's wrap this up. Productivity means bringing things into the world that weren't already there. Productivity is an inherently good thing, but products may be good or not good to varying degrees, depending on several factors. The most important factor is that a product contributes to improving creation by making it more orderly, productive, beautiful, virtuous, or fun. The second most important factor is that a product does what its producer intended to do. And from there, we have a wide range of things to consider, like the effect of a product on its recipient, the durability of the product, the volume at which it's produced, and the context into which it goes after production. Now, this way of framing the goodness of productivity already makes it obvious that productivity has a dark side. Not all products improve creation. Not all production happens in appropriate volume. Not all productivity is good. So in the next episode, I'll take a look at what happens when productivity goes wrong. And until then, thanks for listening to the Extreme Stewardship Podcast. My name is Michael Kibbe, and I teach Bible and theology at Great Northern University in Spokane, Washington. My behind-the-scenes partner in this endeavor is Ben Kibbe, CEO of Kibbe Consulting in Columbiana, Ohio. Our editor-in-chief is Liam Olmsted, art comes from Leah Leanhoutz, and music is provided by Dave Murray of Daradoon Guitars. If this podcast has been useful or challenging to you, shoot us an email, extremestewards@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And if you think it might be useful or challenging to anyone else, well, you know what to do. Ultimately, we hope that listening to this podcast has helped you get better at making things good and good at making things better.